Kristen, I'm
Eric.
so excited to connect with you. Tell me a little bit about, for those of us that haven't heard yet, tell me about your new venture and your company, what you're doing now.
Super excited. We just launched just a few weeks ago officially. PM PathBuilders is the name of it. And so where we are focusing is we like to joke SOPs and ops. So SOPs and really making sure that there are standard operating procedures within property management companies. Because I'm curious from what you see on your side, but the whole reason that this company was born was because I was trying to help property management companies grow. And we were running into stumbling blocks because we were trying to grow really quickly and onboarding more doors and signing more doors, but our operations weren't able to keep up with it. So making sure that ops can handle the influx of sales growth and back and forth, and it can really be one cohesive unit working together and having actual processes. It's so funny to ask a property manager, like, hey, where do your processes live? And they're like,
My head,
in my
always
head.
in my head.
Always.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's a big reason why people come and chat with you too. Yeah. And so I'm curious, I want to ask you a question of processes, right? Where do you see processes fitting into scaling of property management companies?
That's a great question. I would say processes are the foundation in what actually builds a successful and a profitable property management company. It is. The beautiful thing about property management is it's a service-based business that's built on iteration. So if I do something once for one property, I'm going to do it for the next property down the street and the next property down the street. So what that means is there's a duplication and just iteration of a million different tasks that are going to happen over and over and over again. And where I've seen property managers start to win is when they stop thinking about it in a reactive mindset of, let me just react to the work that's coming in front of me and in front of my portfolio, but they start saying, no, I'm going to do this 100 times or 1,000 times, so let me be proactive in the way that I'm actually mapping out my day-to-day work. So really the proactive versus reactive, the old new way versus the old way of management. And what I would love is to hear, what are some of the things that you're doing to help? It sounds like I'm getting some, resonating with that. Going to the newer way of property management, being proactive versus reactive, what are some of the things that you're helping PMs tackle in that?
First and foremost, getting all the information out of their head and into a living, breathing document.
Yeah.
Because the interesting thing about property management, like you said, it is a service-based business, but literally your systems are the product, right? Like what you're going out and you're delivering is your ability to deliver on these guarantees that you're giving to the owners, whether that is, I'm going to help you to grow your asset, I'm going to help you to do this, I'm going to deliver your rent on time. That is your product. So your product is your processes. And so being able to, first of all, get actual documented processes, that is first and foremost. And then from there, figuring out what within the process happens multiple times. What are we doing where we're having to type things out? What are we doing where we're having to repeatedly do the same thing over and over and over again? And that is where I love LeadSimple, because you come in from the processes, you get them all down. And then you figure out what's repetitive. What am I doing that's taking my time? Then you automate that stuff inside of LeadSimple and just make it fire automatically. So then you're left with the things that require that human touch, the things that require you to have that conversation with the owner or have, those different interaction points. But it's documenting, then automating.
Absolutely. It's automating and standardizing and streamlining the trivial, and then allowing yourself to have time for where you actually have meaningful impact for the relationships. Because it's a
100%.
relationship business. It's all about the people. It's owners, it's tenants, it's my own internal team.
Yeah.
It's all about building that type of an experience that's extraordinary for your company. So that's huge. That's great. When you're talking about standardizing your processes and building out in operations, so we can talk about sales all day long. You have an extensive sales background. Sales is your world, but I love that we're focusing on operations. When you start consulting companies and working with companies, there's a million different operational processes: move-ins, move-outs, renewals, delinquencies, onboarding, offboarding, maintenance. There's all of these different processes that PMs are running. Where do you like to go to first when you're working with property managers?
So if I'm doing a full processes, I like to start at the very beginning of the customer journey. So I break it down in that way. So where does the customer first experience us, and focus on one singular process at a time. And that is it. So one at a time, through and through. And so really just getting down, but the customer journey is what I follow, because that's the easiest way to think about it.
What goes into, let's start with onboarding. What goes into an extraordinary onboarding experience?
Yeah, absolutely.
And why is that even important?
Yes. So what goes into that, number one, is organization. Figuring out what documents do I actually need from my owners, and what's the best way for me to get that from them. Is it one giant email that I send out? Is it in utilization of jot forms? Is it in utilization of other different types of tech that we can put in there?
Sure.
But it's really making it simplified for the owner, right? Like really thinking through that lens of the customer experience. How, if we can reduce the number of emails that we're getting and increase the amount of like phone communication that we're having, or that video communication where it's just like face to face, that to me is what makes a solid onboarding process, is figuring it out and reducing the amount of times that our owners need to do stuff for us. Like how can we streamline that process to make it easy on them? Because that's their first point. They've talked to our sales team. Sales has promised them the world, because that is what sales does.
Right.
And then now ops has to pick it up. And that first point where the property manager is having this interaction with the owner is in onboarding.
Yes.
And so if we don't crush it in onboarding, the rest of the process is kind of like you're playing catch up at that point.
Right. So onboarding is something that I'm particularly intrigued about, because for me that's the first impression, and we can do all the research and all the studies that go out and say that you make your first impression and that's the relationship that you manifest the rest of the time that you're with that person. So onboarding is really that first impression for operations. Sales has already done it. Like you said, they've promised the world.
Of course.
They've said, this is what we can deliver
definitely
on.
do everything.
They sign the contract and they pass it off to the onboarding team or the operations team and say, all right, sales is done, operations starts, good luck, have fun. And so often I hear pain points. Eric, I had no idea what my sales team was promising, so I had a bad sales process. Eric, my operations team has no idea all of the nuanced questions that already have been asked by the sales team, and now we're going back again and asking the same things. And my owner's like, what the heck's going on? I feel like you guys seem incompetent because we're duplicating questions.
Right.
So there's inefficiency there. And then for growth-minded PMs, it's an inefficient process. And if you can't onboard well, it means that you're constricting at the front end the growth of your portfolio. So there's onboarding, there's a lot there. But if I break it all down, one of the things that I like to do, I want to get your feedback on this, is onboarding is usually condensed into one system where they just say onboarding full stop. But I like to segment onboarding as owner onboarding
and property
onboarding. And I say, and the reason why I like to segment, I want to get your take on this, but I like to segment it because one is onboarding the relationship, the other is onboarding the asset.
100%. And
those are different things, and it's important to bifurcate. And I'm curious your take on that.
100%. They have to be separated.
Yeah.
They have to be separated out because they are exactly what you said. They're two separate things. And because the owner onboarding requires, in my opinion, a lot more touch points where we want to make sure that we're building in for somebody the ability, like you said, to build that relationship. And if the relationship's not built very well on the front end, that's where you start to hear, because property management is large, right? Like people are asking us to manage the largest assets that they've ever owned and that they may ever own in their entire life.
In their portfolio.
And so it's not a light thing to take on. So understanding the gravity of that relationship is huge. And so if we really think that we can take out phone calls from onboarding, or we can take out personalization, I think that is at detriment to your company. I think you're going to churn a lot more properties. I think you're going to be going through a lot more ups and downs and struggles. And so building that personalization into the owner onboarding is so key, and that is why they should be separated, because they're two separate things. Exactly what you said there, you summed it up so well, but the owner onboarding has to be personalized. It just has to.
It's huge. And I like to have it as a long process of many days. Some people say I can onboard my owner in a week or a couple days.
I mean, like you can, but...
Right. I see a lot of clients who, when they think about the process and they actually build it out, and I see their workflows in LeadSimple of what they've actually put into the onboarding, I'm seeing it closer to a 90 to 100 day journey, which freaks some people out.
Of course it does.
I'm curious how you map it out when you work with clients.
No, it definitely is at a minimum 90 days, but the engagements that I take on with people, I just make suggestions, right? I don't think that there's just one best way to do something. But I do think if it was my company, that I would want at least 90 or 120 days where I'm really holding the hand of that relationship, because like we just talked about, when in a property management company, I don't want anyone to ever just manage one property for someone. I want them to do such a good job that people see the value in property management and learn how to leverage their assets to build portfolios. And that is the evolution of the property manager that we're seeing. And so that relationship with the owner is so key, because you're not just managing their property, you have the opportunity to educate them. You have the opportunity to help them achieve whatever goals and dreams that they have. And you can do that all through your property management. So being able to build that relationship is so key on the front end, because if you do that, it reduces the churn further down the line.
Okay. I love how you're correlating onboarding to churn, which is something that you don't even think about, because we're talking about onboarding where it's all of the great, wonderful things of we're new in a relationship, so we're never going to break up. Like, it's totally fine.
Right, the honeymoon phase.
Exactly. This is all the great things, wonderful things, but you're correlating onboarding to churn. Why?
100%. Because it is, first impressions matter, right? That is something that is important. It's just because you have to build the trust with somebody. It does not happen overnight. It happens over time whenever you show up and do the things that you say you're going to do.
Right.
So if you give yourself in the onboarding more opportunities to show up with integrity by doing the things that you say you're going to do, you're now in that owner's mind. Whenever you have to make that call, hey, I'm so sorry, but your HVAC went out. We need $15,000 to replace it. That is now an easier call, because you know who I am, and you know I'm not going to BS you, and you know that I am not going to do anything that is not in your best interest. And so onboarding starts that relationship.
That's huge. It's building a customer for life.
Exactly. Never lose it. What's that book? Never Lose Another Customer?
Yeah, Joey Coleman.
Yes.
Joey Coleman. Never lose a customer again. It's a huge philosophy in saying I'm going to build a relationship for life. And if that becomes the frame and how I'm engaging them at the beginning, how do I interact with them differently? It's not just a 12-month contract. It's not just a 2-year contract, but it's somebody that I want to do business with for the next 15 to 20, 30 years as a core asset to my company moving forward.
Because a key thing for me is always education and the value that you add. And so my goal with every process that's built out, every company that I work with, that I want them to then treat their customers that way, is you always leave people better than you found them. So it's like, no matter if somebody stays with your property management company for 1 month or 5 years, they should be better off than whenever they came to you.
It's huge. That's good stuff. Better off than when they came to you. I feel like that's a great segue to something that I've been thinking through a lot, when I see people really operating in the new way of property management. Old way of property management's all reactive, all in my head, tribal knowledge, high labor costs, low automation, high touch at a very high cost, poor owner experiences, poor tenant experiences, very hard to scale. That's the old way of property management. The new way of property management is proactive, automated back end, high touch front end, low labor costs. That's really kind of the new narrative. Lots of point solutions, a nice solid tech stack, using workflows, CRM, PM systems, other leasing systems to really leverage up a performance. So that's where I'm seeing like the newer way of property management start to go. In all of that, when you even say, I want my owners to be better off whenever they leave. So whenever they leave, they got better off. In the new way of property management, what I'm seeing is property managers become asset managers, not rent collectors.
Correct.
And the old way of property management and all of those things is rent collectors.
100%.
My property manager is just a rent collector. The owner sees them as just the guy who gets rent for me. And the renters see the people as the dirty landlord just trying to get money from me. That's a rent collector. But in the newer way, there's been this narrative of the property manager really being an asset manager on behalf of the owner, and that's the relationship they carry to the tenants. Have you seen that in the clients that you've worked with in your viewpoint? And if so, how are PMs starting to grow in that area and do more of that?
That is 100% my goal of what I'm wanting to bring to the market in like version 2.0 of PM PathBuilders. Like that is on, I mean, I'm not a developer, but it's on my dev plan, right? Of like what a solution that I do want to provide, right? Like at this point, not consulting, not telling people what to do. That is something that I want to tell people what to do because I'm seeing certain companies do it really, really well to where they are able to provide for their owners and be able to tangibly show them what they're doing. That's the key point, because it all is abstract, right? And the point that it's abstract of, I'm calling you because I'm telling you that this has to happen to your property, and I'm calling you that this is happening. Hey, we collected rent on time this month. It's not tangible to the owner. And so in this new wave, being able to show your owners what you're doing for them, that is how you make that move from property manager being reactive to being proactive. Because now I dare you to try to cancel with me whenever I showed you that I have like increased your ROI by 57% and done all of these things and I've decreased your expenses. So that to me is how you make that jump from reactive to proactive.
Right. And a streamlined, automated backend allows
100%.
for more meaningful experiences where you can take those things and you can take the time to run ROI against properties instead of just fighting to the end of the day and trying to put out all the fires in front of you.
Correct.
Because you're just trying to scrape through to get through that week. But an automated, streamlined backend allows for you to say, wow, gosh, we can start just calling our owners and just checking in on them and not having anything bad to say. We can just check in and see, do they want to buy more properties? Because we're having so much fun managing their current portfolio. Or a proactive system would be reaching out to the tenants instead of on day 10 when they're delinquent on their rent and saying, hey, we're going to post with your late fees. It's on day 1 saying, hey, you're late on your rent. I don't want to post late fees. I would love for you to pay in the next 3 days.
Yeah.
And it's texting them. It's proactively helping them along the process instead of just saying, you're late, pay or leave.
Yep.
It's just a different type of refrain where it's in the move-out process. I love it. Where the move-out process, you immediately let your owner know, automate it, say, hey, by the way, kind of just left. Do you want to keep the asset or sell or do a turn? We're on top of it for you. Just those types of things that changes the narrative.
Yes, and you figure out where those points are by documenting your operating procedures and figuring out where are the pain points and what's breaking our processes. So it's like everything has to happen almost all together, right? To where everything just floats up together. Because if you're trying to scale one side of your company without the other in processes, it's
not going to be there.
You capsize. So figuring out those points.
Absolutely. I've been thinking, and I've been playing with this, I want to get your take on it. I'm a sales guy at heart. I love sales.
Of course. It's the most fun. It's the most fun part of everything.
It is addictive. It's so much fun. I think that sales isn't the way to grow a company, though.
A property management company or just
a property management company? I don't think it's the way to grow.
I'm already loving what you're saying, but yes.
I think that the way you can grow property management is building out your systems.
100%.
Yeah. It's building out your operations.
Because that's your product. That is your product.
Yeah. And around those systems, that's what leads the growth that you can then have. And then you can focus on sales and you can go and have fun and you can close deals and you can do SEO and you can do marketing and lead gen and all those great things. But if you know you can deliver on it because you have such an efficient operations, that's what actually leads to holistic growth. That's what I've seen. I think that's the new way.
100%. I have nothing to add to that because yes.
All right. It's good to have that confirmation. I know you work in so many different verticals within the PM space, and you can see a lot. And so it's good to see that that's happening. And I got to tell you, I think this is a fun space to be in.
Yeah.
Property management is just it's a new industry. It really is. It is totally reinvented over the past couple of years.
Yes, it has. I mean, even since I've started in property management, it's all different. And it's going to continue to change.
Absolutely. All right. So to wrap us up, I do have one question I'm really curious about before we finish up here. Give us, in your company now, what is one thing that you're excited about working on a project? And if it's secret, keep it secret. You don't have to tell us. But what's one thing that you'd like to share that you're working on now that you're excited about either in Q4 or 2024 that you're tackling?
So coming in Q1, what we do have that I can share. I have a secret one that
I like it.
You guys will know about later. But the one that's going to be launching at the beginning of next year is we are building out, because we have our operating procedures. We're talking 110 page document. We are building out a chatbot that uses your SOPs as a knowledge base for you to be able to distribute to your remote team members, to your in-team people. So if there's a question on how to do something, instead of picking up the phone and asking somebody or searching through the document, you just ask the chatbot the question and it pulls from the SOPs, pulls the videos, any relevant information to it. And so it pops all of that out. So it's just like one-stop shop where you can be able to find all of that.
That's incredible.
That is one thing that I am super excited about building. And just leveraging more tech with our stuff.
Yeah. It's a fun space to be in.
Absolutely.
Kristen, thank you so much.
Eric, it's been fantastic.
You too.